I'm Emily, 25 years old, and last month, my grandfather left me his cosy cabin in the woods and a chunk of savings, about $2 million. The day after his funeral, my mother, Patricia, demanded I hand it all over. I said no, and my quiet life turned into a battlefield. This morning, a text buzzed my phone. Family meeting, 3 p.m. When I stepped into my childhood home, there they were, Mum, my siblings, Uncle Robert, and 2 slick-suited strangers. "Meet our advisors," Mum said, her smile icy. I wasn't ready for what hit me next. I sat in the dimly lit law office, the faint smell of old books and polished wood wrapping around me like a heavy blanket. The room was silent, save for the soft, rhythmic ticking of a grandfather clock in the corner, its pendulum swaying with an almost hypnotic calm. My heart thudded against my ribcage, a frantic drumbeat I couldn't quiet. My mother, Patricia, sat to my left, her posture stiff, her face a carefully crafted mask of composure, though the tight line of her jaw betrayed her. Uncle Robert, her brother, flanked her other side, his sharp eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. My sister Rachel fidgeted with her phone, her fingers tapping restlessly, while Jason, my younger brother, stared at the floor, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles whitened. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken expectations. Mr. Peterson, our family lawyer, sat behind a large oak desk, his kind face etched with the seriousness of the moment. He adjusted his glasses, the faint clink of metal against glass cutting through the stillness, and cleared his throat. "We are gathered here today to read the last will and testament of Harold James Matthews," he began, his voice steady, formal, and unwavering. A lump rose in my throat, sharp and unyielding. Grandpa had been gone for only a month, and the ache of his absence still gnawed at me. He wasn't just my grandfather, he was my anchor. The one person who saw me for who I was, not what I could give. While my mother and siblings had always circled his wealth like vultures, I'd treasured the quiet moments summers at his cabin, fishing on the lake, listening to his stories by the fire. He taught me strength, patience, and the value of standing firm. Miss Peterson's voice pulled me back. "I, Harold James Matthews, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament." He read through the smaller bequests, first tokens to distant cousins, donations to charities Grandpa had loved. I barely listened, my mind drifting to his laugh, his rough hands guiding mine as we baited a hook. Then Mr. Peterson paused, and the room seemed to hold its breath. "And to my granddaughter, Emily Nicole Matthews, I leave my cabin in the woods and the remainder of my estate, including my savings and investments, totaling approximately $2 million. The words crashed over me like a wave, cold and overwhelming. For a split second, silence reigned. Then the room exploded. "This is a mistake," Patricia snapped, her voice slicing through the air like a blade. "Read it again." Mr. Peterson shifted uncomfortably but held his ground. "There's no mistake, Mrs. Carter. Your father was explicit in his instructions." Uncle Robert lurched forward, his face flushing crimson. "There's no way Harold would do this. He always said family comes first, family, not just Emily." Rachel gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in exaggerated shock. "Emily, how could you?" she cried, as if I'd orchestrated some grand betrayal. Jason just stared at me, his brow furrowed, hurt and confusion warring in his eyes. I sat frozen, my mind reeling. $2 million! The cabin, Grandpa's haven, the place where I'd felt most alive. It was too much to process, a gift and a burden all at once. Patricia whirled on me, her eyes blazing. "What did you do? Emily, did you manipulate him, trick him into cutting us out?" Her words stung, but I swallowed the hurt and met her gaze. I didn't do anything. Mum! Grandpa made his own choices. He was of sound mind, you know that. Uncle Robert scoffed, his voice dripping with disdain. Sound mind? He was sick, Emily. You were there all the time, whispering in his ear. Of course he picked you. That's not true, I said, my voice trembling but firm. Grandpa knew what he wanted. He trusted me. Trusted you? Patricia's tone was venomous. You're 20 years old. What do you know about managing an estate? That cabin was for all of us, not just you. Mr. Peterson interjected, his calm a stark contrast to the storm brewing around us. Mr. Matthews updated his will 6 months ago. He was lucid and resolute. 6 months ago, Uncle Robert bellowed, when he was already frail. That proves she influenced him. Their accusations battered me, but Grandpa's voice echoed in my mind. Stand your ground. Emily, don't let them bully you. I clung to it like a lifeline. As we left the law office, Patricia seized my arm, her grip bruising. Emily, you can't think this is fair. I have bills piling up. Rachel's in debt. Jason needs college money. We need that inheritance. Uncle Robert nodded, his tone softening into something manipulative. You're young, Emily. You don't need all that. Think of your family. Think of your mother. I pulled away, steadying myself. I am thinking of the family, but Grandpa gave this to me. I have to respect his decision. Patricia's face contorted with fury. Respect his decision. He was my father. Everything he had should have been mine. Her words followed me all the way home, ringing in my ears as I sank onto my couch. I stared at a framed photo of Grandpa and me at the cabin, both of us grinning, his arms slung around my shoulders. You're the only one who understands, Emily, he'd said once. Don't let them take that away from you. Tears pricked my eyes. The fight was just beginning, and I wasn't sure I was ready. The days following the will reading melted into a fog of tension and sleepless nights. My phone buzzed incessantly, each ping, a new jab of guilt or blame from family. Aunt Linda, Grandpa Harold's younger sister, stood apart from the fray. She called me one evening, her voice warm yet steady through the crackling line. Emily, don't let them tear you apart, she said. Your grandfather knew exactly what he was doing when he chose you. Her words were a flicker of light in the gloom, but they couldn't block the storm brewing around me. Patricia, my mother, was a force of nature. Her emails piled up, each one a calculated mix of pleas and accusations. Family looks out for family, she typed, as if I'd stabbed that principal in the back. Rachel's text cut deeper, dripping with bitterness. You've always gotten everything, Emily. Now you're keeping it all. Uncle Robert, usually aloof, chimed in with a terse email. Your mother's heart can't take this. Think about that. I stared at the screen, my chest tight, their words coiling around me like a noose. I threw myself into work, seeking shelter in spreadsheets and deadlines. But even there, the strain seeped through. Tom, my co-worker and confidant, caught me off guard one afternoon in the break room. You look like a ghost. Em, he said, stirring his coffee. What's eating you? I faltered. Then let it all pour out, the inheritance, the family's demands, the weight of it all. He frowned, his eyes narrowing. They're ganging up on you. Don't cave. You're tougher than they think. Toughness felt like a lie I couldn't live up to. Patricia escalated her tactics, reaching beyond me. She called my boss, weaving a sob story about a family crisis. When that failed, she dialed my co-workers, her voice quivering with crocodile tears. Emily's not herself, she'd say. She needs support. It was a slick move, meant to box me in, to make me doubt my own mind. The doubt crept in, insidious and cold. Was I wrong to hold firm? Had Grandpa misjudged me? The questions gnawed at me in the dark hours. Ethan, my boyfriend, kept me grounded. One night, sprawled on my couch, he squeezed my hands and met my gaze. This isn't about the money, Em, it's about power. Your mum can't handle that Harold picked you over her." He was right, but the truth didn't lighten the load. Then came the family dinner, Patricia's latest ambush. The invite was breezy, but I wasn't fooled. Still, I went, clinging to a shred of hope for peace. The moment I crossed the threshold, the air thickened with hostility. Patricia had laid out her finest china, a flimsy mask of civility. Uncle Robert glowered at the table's head. Rachel and Jason sat stiffly, joined by Sarah, Jason's girlfriend, who fidgeted, her eyes darting nervously. Patricia didn't wait for the soup to cool. "Emily, we need to settle this inheritance nonsense. It's not right. Keeping it all. Grandpa would have wanted us to split it." My grip tightened on my spoon. "He gave it to me for a reason. Mum, I won't undo his decision." Uncle Robert's fist hit the table, rattling the plates. "Selfish! Emily, I've got bills piling up. Your mother's barely scraping by. And Jason's tuition isn't cheap." Sarah squirmed, glancing at Jason, who stared at his plate. Rachel dabbed her eyes theatrically. "You don't even care about us, do you? We're your blood." The guilt stabbed deep, but something inside me broke free. "Blood," I snapped, my voice shaking. "Blood doesn't scheme and guilt trip. Blood doesn't twist the truth." Patricia's face darkened. "You ungrateful, what have you done for me?" "Mum," I cut in, "the dam bursting. You blew the college fund. Grandpa gave you on trips. You racked up debt and pointed fingers. Now you want his legacy to bail you out." Silence crashed over the room. Uncle Robert's cheeks flared red. Rachel gaped, speechless. Patricia's glare could have frozen fire. "You little stop," Jason said, his voice slicing through the chaos. Head swiveled to him. He looked at me, torn but firm. "Emily's not wrong. We've been kidding ourselves. Grandpa saw it all, and he chose her." Patricia bristled. "Jason, you stay out of no," he said, rising. "I'm sick of this." Emily didn't ask for it, but she's respecting Grandpa's wishes. I'm with her. The table exploded into shouts, but a quiet strength settled in my bones. Jason's stand wasn't a fix, but it was a start, a crack of light in the shadows. Emily drove to the cabin, under a sky bruised with clouds, the sting of the family dinner still raw. The gravel crunched beneath her tires as she pulled up, the wooden structure looming in the dusk, its windows dark. She stepped out, the air thick with pine and damp earth, a scent that once meant safety, but now carried the weight of doubt. Inside, the cabin was cool and still, the creak of floorboards underfoot the only sound. She traced her fingers along the walls, rough with knots, feeling the ghosts of her grandfather's laughter. This place was hers, Harold's gift, but tonight it felt like a battleground. She sank onto the leather couch, its worn surface cool against her skin, and buried her face in her hands. The silence pressed in, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder. Her family's voices, Patricia's sharp demands, Rachel's quiet jabs replayed in her mind. Even Jason's unexpected defense couldn't erase the ache. Her phone buzzed, jolting her. Aunt Linda's name glowed on the screen. Emily answered, desperate for an anchor. "Emily, sweetheart, how are you holding up?" Aunt Linda's voice was soft, a balm against the storm brewing inside her. "I'm at the cabin," Emily said, her voice cracking. "I had to get away. I don't blame you. That dinner sounded brutal." Aunt Linda paused, then added, "You know, Harold always said that cabin held more than memories. He was a planner. That man might have left something there for you, something to help." Emily's breath hitched. "Like what?" "Just a hunch," Aunt Linda replied, cryptic yet warm. "He loved you fiercely. Maybe poke around a bit." The call ended, and Emily sat still, Aunt Linda's words sparking a flicker of curiosity. Could Harold have left her something? She stood, scanning the familiar space with fresh eyes. She checked the living room first, behind faded photos, under cushions finding only dust. The kitchen offered nothing but old utensils. Then she climbed the attic stairs, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. The attic smelled of time, of cedar and forgotten summers. Boxes and trunks stood like sentinels, coated in a fine grey film. In the corner, a small chest caught her eye, its wood polished smooth. She knelt, heart thudding, and lifted the lid. Inside, among brittle letters and sepia-toned pictures, lay a USB drive, her fingers closed around it, cool and solid, a lifeline she hadn't known she needed. Downstairs, she plugged it into her laptop with trembling hands, clicking the lone file for Emily. Harold's face appeared, his silver hair catching the light, his eyes warm and steady. "Hello, my dear Emily," he said, his voice a hug across time. "If you're seeing this, I'm gone, and the family's likely making things hard." Tears welled as he spoke of his trust in her, his regret over Patricia's greed. "She'll try to twist you up, make you feel small. Don't let her. Em, I hid this because I knew she'd fight dirty. But you're the heart of this family. The land, the cabin, it's yours because you'll keep it alive, not sell it off." The screen went dark, and Emily exhaled, a sob catching in her throat. Harold had seen it all, Patricia's manipulations, the family's fractures, and left her this shield. Relief mingled with sorrow, but beneath it, a fire kindled. She wasn't alone. His faith in her was a steady hand on her shoulder. Rain began to fall outside, a soft patter against the glass. Emily clutched the USB, its edges pressing into her palm. She wouldn't show it to them, not yet. This was her strength, a secret to carry into the next fight. The family meeting loomed, Patricia's next move inevitable. But now Emily felt the stirrings of courage. Harold's words echoed, "Stand firm, my girl!" And she would. Emily's hands trembled as she stood on the porch of the family home, the USB drive and Harold's journal tucked into her bag like hidden armour. The door loomed before her, its familiar wood suddenly foreboding. She took a breath, the air sharp with the scent of rain-soaked earth, and stepped inside. The living room was a tableau of tension. Patricia sat rigid on the sofa, her fingers drumming a silent rhythm on the armrest. Uncle Robert paced by the window, his shadow flickering against the drawn curtains. Rachel perched on the edge of an armchair, her eyes darting between them, while Jason slouched in a corner, his face a mask of unease. "Emily," Patricia said, her voice a blade wrapped in silk. "We've been waiting." Emily's throat tightened, but she forced a nod. "Let's get this over with." Patricia gestured to a chair, its position isolating Emily from the others. She sat, her bag clutched to her chest like a shield. Uncle Robert stopped pacing, his gaze heavy. "We're here to settle this inheritance mess. You've had your fun, Emily, but it's time to do what's right." "What's right?" Emily's voice was steady, though her pulse raced. "Grandpa left it to me. That was his choice." Patricia's laugh was brittle, a sound like cracking ice. "His choice. He was sick, confused. You took advantage of him." Emily's chest burned, but she met her mother's eyes. He wasn't confused. He knew exactly what he was doing. Uncle Robert snorted, his face flushing. "You expect us to believe that you were always there, whispering in his ear? Of course he picked you." Rachel's voice wavered, a practiced tremor. "Emily, we're family. We need that money. Jason's college, Mum's bills, enough." Emily cut in, her patience fraying. "I know what you're doing. Guilt won't work this time." Patricia's expression hardened. "Then maybe this will—" She slid a document across the coffee table, its pages crisp and official. "Sign this, and we'll split the inheritance fairly. No lawyers, no fights." Emily glanced at the paper, her stomach twisting. "And if I don't," Uncle Robert leaned forward, his voice low, "we'll contest the will. Prove Harold wasn't in his right mind." "It'll get ugly. Emily, think about his legacy." The threat hung in the air, a noose tightening around her. For a moment, doubt flickered. Could she endure a legal battle? But then she remembered Harold's voice, warm and steady. "Stand firm, my girl." She reached into her bag, her fingers closing around the USB drive. "I have something you should see," she said, her voice calm despite the storm inside her. She plugged the drive into the TV, and Harold's face filled the screen, his eyes kind but resolute. "If you're watching this—" "I'm gone!" Harold began, his voice a balm against the room's hostility. "And Emily's likely facing pressure from all of you." Patricia's face paled, her hands clenching. "What is this?" Harold's image continued. "Unyielding. I left everything to Emily because she's the only one who understands what matters. Patricia, you've squandered every chance I gave you. I love you, but I can't trust you." Uncle Robert's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "This doesn't change anything. He was ill when he made this." Emily shook her head, pulling out the journal. "He wasn't. This journal documents everything, every loan, every broken promise. He knew exactly what he was doing." She opened the journal. Reading aloud, October 12th gave Patricia $10,000 for Rachel's tuition. She spent it on a vacation. "I can't keep enabling this." Rachel's cheeks flushed, her gaze dropping. Jason shifted, his brow furrowing. Patricia's voice was a hiss. "Lies! You forged that!" "No," Emily said, her voice steady. "It's his handwriting. You know it is." The room fell silent, the weight of Harold's words settling like dust. Then Jason stood, his face pale but determined. "Mom, she's right. Grandpa wasn't confused. He saw everything." Patricia whirled on him, her eyes blazing. "Jason, sit down." "No," he said, his voice trembling but firm. "I'm done pretending. Emily's not the enemy here." Uncle Robert's face twisted with fury. "You ungrateful stop," Emily said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "This ends now. I won't sign anything. Grandpa trusted me, and I'll honour that." Patricia's eyes burned with a mix of rage and disbelief. "You'll regret this, Emily." Emily stood, her bag slung over her shoulder. "Maybe, but I'd regret betraying him more." She turned to leave, Jason following, his hand brushing hers in silent support. The door closed behind them, the click of the latch a final note in the symphony of their fractured family. Outside, the rain had stopped away, the air fresh and cool. Emily exhaled, the weight on her chest lifting. She wasn't alone anymore. The silence in the car was thick, broken only by the hum of the engine as Jason and I drove away from the family home. The confrontation lingered in my mind, Patricia's stunned expression, Uncle Robert's defeated slump, Rachel's tear-streaked face. Jason's hand had been a lifeline on my shoulder, grounding me through the storm. Now, as the city lights faded into the dark stretch of highway, I felt the weight of it all begin to lift, replaced by a fragile calm. We reached the cabin just as the moon rose, its silver light spilling across the lake. The familiar creak of the porch steps welcomed me home, and I unlocked the door, the scent of pine and old wood enveloping us as we stepped inside. I sank onto the couch, Harold's journal still clutched in my hands, its worn leather a tether to his memory. Jason settled beside me, his presence steady and warm. "Thank you for standing by me," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have faced them without you." He smiled, his eyes bright with quiet pride. "You're my sister. I'll always have your back." I opened the journal, my fingers tracing Harold's neat script. Each word was a piece of him, his love, his trust, his unshakable belief in me. "I didn't want it to come to this," I murmured, echoing the words I'd spoken earlier. "But Grandpa saw what they couldn't. He made his choice, and I'm going to honour it." Jason leaned closer, his voice soft. "What's your plan now?" I closed the journal and met his gaze. "I'll keep the cabin. It's his heart, his legacy. The money will preserve it, make it something more. But I won't leave you out. Jason, I'll set up a fund for your education, give you the start he'd want you to have, and for Mum and Rachel. A modest trust enough to help. But with rules. No more waste, no more lies. He nodded, his expression serious. That's fair. I'll help you. Whatever you need. Gratitude warmed me, softening the edges of my exhaustion. Thank you, Jason. That means everything. We talked late into the night, mapping out the future over cups of coffee, the cabin's quiet wrapping around us like a promise. I thought of Patricia's whispered disbelief. He was my father. How could he do this to me, and the pang of sympathy I'd pushed aside? I thought of Rachel's plea, her tearful promise to change. The storm had passed, but the ripples remained, and I knew the healing would be slow. The next morning, I met Samantha at her office, the air sharp with the scent of ink and paper. We drafted the legal framework Jason's fund, secure and untouchable, the trusts for Patricia and Rachel, bound by conditions to curb their reckless past. Samantha's pen paused as she looked at me, her voice firm with respect. You're doing the right thing, Emily. Harold would be proud. I smiled, a quiet peace settling in my chest. I know. This is what he wanted. Back at the cabin, I stood on the porch, watching the lake ripple under a gentle breeze. The water caught the sunlight, shimmering like a living thing, and I felt Harold's presence in every glint. I decided then the cabin wouldn't just be mine. It would be a retreat, a place for others to find the solace he'd cherished here. I called local craftsmen, their voices rough with pride as they agreed to restore it, keeping its soul intact while weaving in new life. Rachel texted me that afternoon, her words tentative. Can we talk? I'm sorry. We met for coffee the next day, the cafe's hum a buffer between us. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her voice small. I was jealous. I messed up. Can you forgive me? I nodded, my throat tight. I can. Rachel, but it'll take time. She agreed, a fragile hope in her smile. Patricia stayed silent, her absence a shadow I couldn't shake. I wrote her a letter, pouring out my choices and offering peace. Whether she'd take it, I couldn't know. On Harold's anniversary, I stood by the lake with Jason and Rachel, the sun sinking low. We shared quiet stories, his memory a thread, binding us. Thank you, Grandpa, I whispered. The words carried on the wind. The cabin glowed behind us, a testament to his love, and I knew I'd kept my promise.